Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is John with Tommy's Top Picks here to bring you your weekly market update. Just a quick reminder, if you enjoy this content or any of the content on this channel, hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, leave a comment, help us out by helping the algorithm identify us as good content for people like you. I will say that we are improving our subscription, or rather, our unsubscribed users is now down to 70%. Previously, when we talked about it, it was about 90%, so it has come down. I really appreciate all you out there who have hit the subscribe button and helped with that ratio. Let's go ahead and dive in, jump into some of the numbers as to what's going on in the market. Nothing too crazy. Basically just what you would expect with a market that's kind of cool and continues to cool off. Nothing special, no crazy day like this day where we had a lot of things drop, but we did get some drops, so let's jump into it. All right, WTR is actually up. This is the unlimited boxes. I would call it reversion to the mean. If you see, we were at 61 before, dropped down to 55, slipped a little lower, back up to just under 61, indicating a downward trajectory of the market. But this is kind of the uptick that happens when things move down too fast. This one's quite notable. Mon is down 42%. Again, unlimited boxes. That's because we got it crazy. It went nuts and went up to 67, 68. Back here, 68. You know, we've had a lot of volatility in Monarch. I believe this is around the footsteps. That is starting to cool off on the individual card itself. Is going for, I think, 2 and some change now, as opposed to where it was like 230, 250. It was like crazy numbers before. Now it's cooled off. So the regular unlimited version, the rainbow foil version, has cooled off, and so I think some of these price spikes have cooled off as well pretty dramatically in the last week. So wondering what will happen here. I'm guessing more volatility, because if you have a 42% swing, you're going to get that rubber band effect, snapping it back to the mean. Hopefully in the 50s range, right? Somewhere between here and here, so that it chills out and stops with this volatility. But if we keep snapping back and forth, hey, there's opportunity there too. Tales of Aria continues its slide down 10% further from last week, which also was a marker week. So what we're saying is that the downward trend on Tales of Aria is just continuing down at a rapid enough pace to warrant being marked on the heat map. We'll take a look at the chart and see what that means, but ultimately it's not all that surprising with Starvo going out. A little surprising with Icelander coming in, except she can't use many of the cards from Tales of Aria. I think it's like Channel Lake Frigid's one of the main ones that comes from that set that she uses in most of her decks. Icy Encounter in some of them, the hybrid ones, people are testing out hybrid. I haven't seen it work yet, so I think it's going to end up staying with the Arcane, Ice Arcane, or Ice Wizard spells, and then the like channels and stuff like that, which there just aren't that many in Tales of Aria, so it's not enough to hold up these prices that I assume were being supported through Starvo in the Everfest period. On to unlimited cases. Mon Unlimited is down 7.9%, almost a full 8% actually. Pretty interesting slide there. I guess this was probably being propped up by the same thing as this, although it wasn't as dramatic, but you can see there was some volatility here, right? So we have 59, 50, 57. You see that back and forth kind of movement, dropping down heavily to 38, 238 for the case of Unlimited Mon. Essentially, it looks like people gave up chasing the boots. Makes kind of sense, because you could buy this when the boots themselves were about this. It's almost like a good gamble. It's not really, because you no guarantee that's the legendary yet, but you get the idea. It's close to a gamble, a even odd or even number gamble, where you get a boots and you pay for the whole case situation, right? So you buy a case, hope you get the boots, pays for the whole thing. If you get other things of value, you can sell those. I will say some of my other Monarch cards did sell, so they are moving. They aren't, dead yet, as far as the Prism LL that we expect to happen over the next season or so. I did a little bit of math on that, and it looks like there's something like 800 points available over this next season. It's like 4 points per battle hardened, road to national, something like that. And there was like 163 registered as CC events last I looked. So somewhere in that range, you can do the math. It was quite a bit of points available. She only needs I think just over 200, just under 200, I think. Yeah, so like just call it 200 to get to LL. Now the thing you have to think about is just because she hits it on points doesn't mean they immediately say she's out, right? You have to wait for the next period where they do the banned and restricted and announce Living Legends again, and then that's when they'll be cut off. And so you could have her in the meta, even if she goes immediately. Like, say the first 200 points all go to Prism. I don't think she's that repressive, but let's just pretend that's what happens. If that were to happen, what would then occur is that she's still probably, unless they saw it as too repressive and did a special ban and restricted announcement. But let's say it seemed pretty fair, but she just happened to win a lot. Then what they end up doing is continuing it on until probably the end of the season, and then maybe right before Pro Tour, because I think it ends right around August, beginning of August or something like that. That would be the time when they'd announce it right before Pro Tour, taking her out, shifting the meta, similar to what they did with Pro Tour 1. I hope that's what they do, because I think that was a really good idea for competitive format into that Pro Tour itself, that actual battle between all the best. You really want to have a shaken up meta, so it's not certain what you're going into, so it's really the best of the best. So anyways, point being, I don't think she's going anywhere for quite some time, but it looks like the prices on her stuff are cooling off. And again, some of that hype may have been around Dramai. I think now that people realize it's okay but not great, the Phantasmal Footsteps, that is, it's probably just the demand's not as high as it was before. Same thing as we're looking at up here with Tales of Aria down 8.4%, pretty reflective of what we saw in the per box. Just a little bit of a premium holding on there. I imagine we'll see that in the chart though. Let's see. First edition boxes. Only thing of great note, Cruise bounced up a little bit just because we were talking about that last week. 7% down on Monarch first edition, same sort of thing. 114 feels like a steal. I'll probably buy another one because so far I've gotten really lucky. 2 of 2 boxes I've pulled a legendary. I know that's not the odds, but whatever. Maybe I get lucky again. Or maybe I'll just stick it on the shelf as a loose box for some future date when things get crazy again and it's fun to open. Point being, 114 seems pretty good for a first edition that can get you a cold foil, so might want to grab those if you're interested in that product and don't have enough of it. I certainly don't have a lot of first edition Monarch, that's why I didn't mind opening those. Monarch was in Unlimited when I first started playing, so I was getting Unlimited to save money because I didn't know if I really wanted to play the game, didn't know how much I liked it, that sort of thing. So for my collection purposes, I have a play set of Unlimited and then almost no first edition. That has slowly changed over time, and I'm getting more of a set. I would say I'm pretty close to a full play set of majority of things. Obviously not every single cold foil legendary, although I have most of them, and not every single majestic in a play set. That I'm sure I don't have. That's something I should probably go back and look at and pick up. I know that's something Tommy's looking at doing, so which is smart. In these times when the market is quiet like this and getting cooler, picking up majestics that are not popular from old sets seems like a good investment, because someday that class is going to come roaring back and that majestic is going to be super useful, and then its price will go up. So this is a good time to fill out those collections of older stuff, or even recent stuff, honestly, as we saw Tails and the rest are going down. All right, so now we're going to jump over to where I would normally scroll down and do some sort of card review. I just have the old one up here that we talked about last week because I decided to do it slightly different this week. Can you see that? Yes, okay. So I typically do cards from the most recent set. Obviously, this set's not out yet, but there are sales happening, so I wanted to include it and start talking about it, kind of setting the stage for the market going into an open market. Now, 2 things that are important to note here. First, you cannot pre-sale unless you're a big vendor on TCG Player. So this is literally very limited listings. Everyone that got cards from pre-releases that may have an account but aren't really box stores or the like, they aren't able to sell right now. So all these prices are artificially high because there's artificial low supply. The second the live street date hits, which is, I believe, July 1st for the US now, it's going to change because everyone that got those cards at pre-release, say you got a bunch of erase faces, right? You're like $21. I can go buy boxes if I sell my 8 of these or whatever, right? I don't know, making it up, right? They're all going to throw them on there, and that price is going to come down, exceedingly and precipitously. Let's see what it actually is. So this one hasn't slipped too much because it's a utility card, but you can see it's come down a little bit. Yeah, not really. 30 was like its highest in the history, but you can see there's sales happening. Like there's real volume here now. So these cards are starting to come into demand by their chart, which I have a hard time trusting these charts. I've tried to back analyze them a couple of times, and they don't make sense to me. They do something weird with averaging different things, and at least with the unlimited and limited sets or first edition sets, it was almost always universally messed up, these numbers, because they averaged across the sets or something. I'm not sure what. But let's go back. Race Face, hot card, very cool. It's basically a free turn, and it's a popper because it's 6 attacks, so you can pop those dragons if you block with it, which is a great little piece to have. And if you swing with it, it does cost 2, but 6 for 2 is not bad. And if it hits the hero, it turns off their class and talent types on all their cards. So basically, things get locked out. All the icy stuff from Icelander's gone. All the 5 stuff requiring Draconic Chain Links is gone. I think Dromai has a few things that relate to dragons. Her Gogan, I think, is related to the dragons specifically, which is a card type. That's gone. So you just think of it this way. Anything that has talents and class skills that are very critical to their functionality, this turns off. So it gives you kind of a freebie turn. I think this is going to be maybe not an auto include in every deck going forward, but it's kind of like your Command and Conquer-esque card. It gives you that powerhouse swing with a good effect. So I think it's going to be popular going forward. And I know I'm not the only one that thinks that. Shuko, these are really hot. These actually have this effect where damage that would be dealt by this can't be prevented. So if you think of Prism's shields, if this effect goes off, it does have like a requirement to trigger it. If it goes off and she's got 5 shields up, it will pop the shield because it says if you would be dealt damage, destroy this instead, take no damage. But because of this, it won't prevent damage. The damage will continue on, like it will pop, it will stop it from hitting the hero, the damage will continue on. The next shield says if you would be dealt damage, which at this point they're about to be dealt damage, it'll pop it, and it goes down the whole thing. It'll pop the entire chain of their shields. So, Fi, actually, this doesn't even have to be on Fi. Any ninja going into Prism now has a shield popper ability, which makes them far more viable into her. So I don't know how that's going to change the meta. I'm sure it will. I don't know Ninja very well, but when I heard and saw this effect, actually, I think we talked about it in our Discord. That was the first kind of inkling of it. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, this changes that dynamic. My understanding is Prism was pretty abusive to previous ninjas just because the shields would stop all the little stabs that they like to do. This changes that dynamic pretty drastically. So now it becomes, I guess, a race. I don't know. If you know, leave a comment. Let's see. These are all by best selling. So this is clearly the most popular. This is super popular. Obviously, boxes. This is a collector card. This is a pretty good chess piece legendary. Full arts are there, hot. This looks gorgeous, so I understand that. But it looks like collector things are the hottest stuff, as you would expect at premium prices early. And then you get into some of the interesting effects. I'm curious why Vipox is valuable. I see something here, but I don't fully know what it is. I'm thinking an attack reaction that pushes this over the top, so they end up blocking and still getting the negative effect. It is a 0-cost red, so that's always good, but only swings for 1 plus hand size. So they take it and take 5, or they block it and take nothing, and then you put it over the top and they still take 3. I don't know. There's probably some tech with that. It seems like it's abusable. Let's see. Channel Bleak Expanse. Can't search decks or draw cards. That's great for slowing down those card draw types. I'm thinking Briar with Nature's Force and Channel Mount Heroic, things of that nature. So that'll be good into that. Maybe this is an Oldheim staple now for aggro, dealing with aggro. That makes sense. All you got is a defense reaction. Seems pretty good. I think it's going to be a staple in a lot of things, and then it just kind of gets into the other cards. What you'll note, and I wanted to take a moment to note, is let's go down here. So in case, right, arbitrary majestic here. If you look, oh, this one doesn't have much sales. All right, let's go back. There's a few of them that have sales, and the prices have already dropped. And that's the part that I wanted to point out. So yeah, like for example, this one started at 25, and actually, yeah, okay, it started at 25. That's the furthest back it has, and now it's down to 16. It did drop lower, so you're going to see this volatility as the time goes on. But the point being that these pre-sales are not the best judge of the market. They're going to be over the top high. You probably shouldn't chase these unless you need them for competitive events or whatever. I get that. But they're not, they're artificially high. If you hold off for a few weeks, you'll be able to get prices that are much more reasonable, and the Majestics that are coming down will come down quickly. Now, doesn't mean there won't be some staple Majestics that are super valuable, super important. Everyone needs a full play set of. Thaw might be one of them if Icelander's in the meta. I have my doubts on that. But they'll hold up around this price level, because if you recall in the last set, the key Runeblade cards all stayed at around $20 almost the entire season. So I expect that to be the same going through Pro Tour 2. The ones that are critical will stay kind of elevated. I don't know how many there are, because unlike Everfest, which had cards for every class, therefore some Majestics were going to eventually be part of the meta. This doesn't have cards for every class. So if Illusionist, I'm assuming Icelander, because they're all Ice Majestics or Ice Wizard Majestic types, and Ninja aren't part of the meta, then these cards won't necessarily, any of them won't necessarily hold up to 20. I think Ninja, I think Fives definitely feels like he's strong enough to be part of the meta. I think some of these ice cards, because Insidious Chill, Ice Aura, this is usable by Oldhim, right? Same with that Channel one we were talking about. So, and Oldhim looks strong, right, in the upcoming meta. Maybe not with Prism there, but after the fact. So I have a feeling some of these will hold up, but just interesting way to look at it. Let's go ahead and get back into the charts. I made some upgrades. I extended the timeline so we could see what this was like over a longer period of time. I think I just added a month, maybe a month and a half, something like that. But interesting to see the full pattern. This will allow me to describe and show some of the things I've talked about in the past as far as patterns that I look for. This, well, let's just go into it. So WTR unlimited cases, clear volatility all over the place, settled down, and just, chilled out, has been flat ever since. This is interesting. This is something we should look to see if it happens with other high volatility, chill out, right? And then you got to recall that this is over a period of months. This is probably near the restocking for the WTR events. So they came in waves, right? Then you couldn't get them, then wave, then you couldn't get them. Now there's still plenty left over, right? That volatility ended up leading to these arbitrage opportunities, which were not very good, right? $3 is not much of an opportunity, but it's just something to note the patterns of. And then you see this flat lines, but the single box prices dropped, cratered, in fact, for a while. I guess people trying to clear inventory, and now they're starting to rise back up, and I imagine they'll get to a point where they maintain a solid parity with the case divided by 4 situation, a minor premium on the case. Arc, similar thing. Volatility, drop down, flat line. The drop down flat line is interesting. This is the first edition cases. I noted that these first edition boxes have a tendency to hold up pretty well. I guess they're just harder to come by, and your premiums have maintained longer. You'll note there's barely any sort of period. This is probably the longest period right here where there's some sort of arbitrage opportunity, almost a good one at $8. We'll see what happens. So here's that J hook that I like to see. It tends to indicate a bottom, but I don't trust it in these soft markets right now, so I will hold for a week or two just to see what's going to happen. But it is the thing I was describing before, where it comes down fast, slows, and then starts to come back up. And this is usually where I would buy if it were like a magic set. I've done that in the past. Obviously, markets are a little volatile right now just because of global events and the macro environment. So you got to take that into consideration when you think about these like opportunities and if you're trying to time them and that sort of thing. Crew is crazy. I guess it's just because of the way the price moved. I don't know what conclusion to draw from this. It looks like it's pretty much flatline with some weird noise in there that's probably worth ignoring. And if we can get this off the chart, then it will look more like a reasonable chart. Sorry, scroll down. The boxes, again, we have this kind of flatline premium because the price was flatlined. Even when it dipped, it barely changed this divided by 4 value, whereas the single boxes have been all over the place, right? And this is, again, Unlimited Crew. I imagine that's because the way they put Unlimited out, it was an unexpected situation, limited couple waves, and it ran out first. So it's probably going to have some period where, and maybe not yet, but some period where it becomes increasingly unavailable, and we'll start to kind of stabilize into that upward trend that you see, or the plateaus in the step ladder thing. Monarch, slow drip down as we just talked about, and then this is a particular funny looking one. So we got this instability, right, which is fine. Like, this is pretty much a straight line. You just look at that midpoint, that's your straight line. But then dropping off a cliff, $47 a box, 42% drop we were just talking about. Crazy. Like, that's a significant drop. I don't know if that ends up becoming a downtrend, like we get more volatility downwards, or if we snap back. I don't know what I want, actually, because I don't really care so much about Unlimited Monarch. I imagine there's so much of it out there, both this and first, that it will continue with downward pressure, just because Unlimited is not going to be the highest demand, short of things like the boots getting propped up again. So that's something to think about. I think that was probably what was holding things up the most. Tales of Aria Unlimited. Cases are sliding, call that a slow downward trend. Not too aggressively though, so that's probably good. And then boxes are pretty much flat with a few errant areas, and then of course the softening of the market. So this is the opposite of what I like to see. You see how it's like slow and then faster, and it might go faster next week. This can lead to good buy opportunities, because if you spike the bottom of the V, you get the highest increase in value as it goes up, but there's no guarantee in an unlimited, Tales of Aria set that it goes back up heavily, right? It could just kind of curve off the bottom, in which case you've not really done yourself any favor. You could have waited, saved your capital for another week, right? We don't have Everfest Unlimited. Ha, I remembered for the first time ever. All right, WTR, first edition cases, boring, flat, boxes, spiked up over some time, back down, kind of reverted to the mean. It's interesting to see that it really didn't come down too far or hard. So intriguing, curious, keeping an eye on it. But yeah, it's pretty much just a slow drip down, which is fine. Eventually it will curve up when supply is no more and demand has picked up because it's older and people are looking for older stuff. We're not there yet. ARK cases. This one's all over. We've talked about this. I don't think there's much to cover here. And then the actual per box price, which I think is more reflective of the reality of the market, slowly sliding down, $1,500. Again, another $50. I like this slow slide because it will mean people won't notice that it's dropped. And it gets down to these really tasty price points where it will be nice to snap up a few, as many as you can, before the price spikes back up. Something to consider that we haven't talked about is that TCG Player, if someone does try to grab like all of the product on the market, it does auto spike the price for you. It's just something it does as a defensive measure against buyouts. And so that may end up affecting our data at some point. I don't know when, and we'll have to see if we can notice it, but it is something that may be some of these anomalies and noise factors that we've talked about in the past are actually represented in the data, and it's just TCG Player auto upping the price, because it does. I forget what it was Rudy was talking about at one point, like it just ups the price by 10 or 20% automatically if people try to buy all of them, something like that. So it's just one of those measures to keep people from doing buyouts and manipulating the market. So we may see that in the data at some point. Anyways, Crew, nice little downward slide, nothing special, flatlining here, but after this step down, you see that, how it's like down, flat, down, maybe 2 weeks of flat, down, Like the whole market's softening. People are afraid of cards or any risk on assets right now, which is fine by me. Gives me good opportunity to buy, and it looks like that's what's happening. First edition crew boxes and cases. Here's a little tail up. Maybe we've hit a bottom. I'm going to say I doubt it. I think we've hit one of these where it goes up and then back down again. So we'll see where that goes in the next couple of weeks, but it's nice to get it to bounce back up. There is some demand for the individual boxes at that price range. Monarch fell off a cliff. So I think last week we just had like this thing and that, and that's what kind of encouraged me to say, okay, I want to see the whole pattern here. So here's Monarch. This is looking like the new plateau price, pretty much market reacting to the news that first edition had as many as it did. It took a while because remember, the prices didn't change right away, but then it did. And I imagine we'll see it sit here for a while. I'm not too terrified by it. It's actually a very reasonable price. Considering all the data we have, I think it will go back up eventually. And in a softening market, the ones that have the data that's the most, I guess, ugly will get hit first. And Monarch is that product in this set, or in this product line, I suppose. It's the individual product. So anyways, premium's back, holding strong. Individual prices are going down, which this is like getting crazy good. For a deal here. I really do think that it should be kind of in parity, but we'll see where it lands. I'll probably buy all the way down just because I like the set, honestly. And like I said, I don't have a full set of everything that's in first edition, so it lets me get it at a very good price. So might as well. Tales of Aria. Yeah, this has been madness, like we talked about. So cases are all over the place, but really not a huge variance if you look at it. I'm not sure exactly what that price is, but that's 270 or 370, maybe 90. You know, about 400, 100 a box, right? So that's kind of that top price of a first edition, right? And slowly dripping down, volatility reducing. You can see the highs and lows are tightening, and it will probably continue to kind of downward trend, and then and like kind of tighten up on its volatility, which will be nice because volatility is insane in some of these things. Let's see, the box and divided by KC. Here's where the premium's locking in, it looks like. And we had a big dip here not reflected in the case. So these are kind of great opportunities to buy individual boxes if you want, just to get products. It's not ideal, obviously, for the whole of the situation, but if you've held off on, say, Tales of Aria this whole time and you wanted to pick up some stuff, you know, that's a pretty good deal. That's a local down, a local low, a local discount. Doesn't mean it can't go lower, so hold out for that if you really want to, but I think at these times it's kind of good to pick up the singles and such that are in depressed boxes. Like Tales of Aria wasn't very good for a while because of Starvo and everything else except for off key cards, but now Starvo's out, those on-key Starvo cards are now dropping. So over this next few weeks, as that decline kind of settles at the bottom of that, it's a great time to pick up those cards, you know, the collectible pieces that probably aren't something you want to buy during the heat of the moment when he's super popular. Like I did. Don't do what I did. I paid too much for some of those cards because I just wanted them all. I'm trying to be better this time around. We'll see how I do with those Dragon Marvels. I really think I'm going to have trouble with that. Anyways, Everfest, here's this crazy drop here, but generally speaking, we get the post-release dip and then slow decline settling at 299, which is really quite low if you think about it. But it's not like insane. It's not the end of the world sort of thing. It's just there's plenty on the market. It's fresh product. Everyone's kind of over it because the new set's about to come out. So I fully expect this to decline further. But if it does it in a steady way, like I consider this a fairly steady decline because you got to consider like 400 is kind of the starting point, and then you get your drop, your post release drop off where everyone has supply now, right? And they don't need the cards anymore. And then this is just the slow decline of the popularity, and then it picks back up as the supply declines and the popularity, or rather the interest goes kind of into people looking backwards, right? So the demand becomes from not the front end of the set, but from the people looking backwards trying to get older cards. That's the healthy spot we want to see. It's going to be a while for Everfest. It's a brand new product. What do you expect, right? Here we go with the box and the case, case divided by 4 rather. Premiums locked in, so that seems like it's going to be healthy. Decline in single boxes. If you're missing some Everfest, go ahead and look at picking it up. This is not an arbitrage opportunity, obviously, but it's one where single boxes are at a very steep discount. 66. It could go lower. Don't doubt that. It could definitely go lower because I feel like there's plenty of supply and probably not that much demand going into uprising. But you just look at it and say when the price is right for what you're willing and what you need and what you're trying to get, and that's when you act on it. So new piece here. Hey, got some uprising data finally. So I added this to the chart. I don't know if you noticed it on the heat map. Did I call it out? No, I didn't because it was pretty stable. But yeah, so I added the chart. We'll see this populate over time. This is what pre-release data looks like. So slow decline from crazy pre-sales that we said don't buy it there. That's nuts. It's over MSRP. The price will come down. Word got out. It's going to come down. Sure as heck did. And then we dropped off here at this point and have kind of stabilized around this 350 range. I could see it bleeding out further a little bit, especially post-release, going down to kind of that 300 point. You do have the, I think it's 180-day map guarantee, so it will plateau for that period and then drop off after it. I'm just not sure what that number is exactly and how long exactly that lasts, especially with the 2 different release dates now. So something to keep an eye on. Hopefully we'll be able to see it in the data. Let's see here. So no arbitrage opportunity. There was for a little while here, although you couldn't get the cases, so there's really no ability to act on that, right? So this is just kind of arbitrary data at a pre-release point, but you do see things kind of flatlining here and stabilizing, which I think is a good place to be. I imagine this is where it stays because if I recall correctly, the box price, is it 86? It might be 80. It might be 80 is the bottom is map for a box. And then that's the plateau. Like, so we could see a little dip, $5 down from here. If 80 is correct, then plateau there and move over for 3 months or 6 months, whichever it is. So anyways, that's it for the charts. I hope you guys enjoy the content. I hope you're out there having fun, cracking packs. I gotta say, the Uprising pre-release was a blast. I'm super hyped for that product, and I can't wait to see how the data turns out around it. This is our first 2.0 data, so it's gonna probably define the future, assuming they stick with it and don't make major changes with the next set. I don't know that they will. It just depends on this whole distribution thing. Clearly, we're still having issues since our release date got pushed back, which I personally believe they made the right move there. Better to announce it, get ahead of it, than have people like, I can't get my boxes. Box prices skyrocket, and so that would be really bad if it did a Monarch 2.0. Everyone would ridicule them so badly. So I think they made the right move. Hopefully U.S. distribution logistics gets worked out. I know some of this is just pure COVID issues with ports. Has nothing to do with LSS, card people, anything. It's not related to our industry. It's related to the world. Some of it may be related to the industry, but I know ports have had issues recently, part of what I've discovered in some of my other research. So anyways, like I said, hope you guys enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what I'm getting right, wrong, or you'd rather me do differently. We'll keep on with this for a while, probably make a few improvements here and there, but we'll keep doing this for a little bit. And yeah, have a good one.